me what you see when you look at me. Do you see another brother lost in these streets looking for his soul?
Trying to find my soul.
Or do you see another brother searching for lost souls in these streets? A street soldier.
Street soldier.
Here to help you get that chip off your shoulder, warm your colder days and sober your drunken ways, and find a way to help you get over these hurdles placed in our path. And this is not meant to amuse you. This is for all those who have questions but are afraid to ask.
I won't be afraid. I won't be afraid. No. When times get hard, you lose your way. Open your mind and hear what I say.
This is a message for the hard and the soft. To those who tune in weekly and to those who keep an eye out for 8 p.m. on Sundays and turn their radios off. The truth hurts. The cloth has been pulled. We're walking around half dead. Use this show as your IV. Alive and free is a new movement. We've achieved self-destruction. A street soldier promotes self-improvement.
Streets couldn't be no colder, so I gotta be a soldier. It shouldn't be this hard for me. Even when it seems so hopeless, I gotta keep my focus. I'm glad to be alive and free, yeah. Streets couldn't be no colder, so I gotta be a soldier. It shouldn't be this hard for me. Even when it seems so hopeless, I gotta keep my focus. I'm glad to be alive and free, yeah.
Before we get into that, let's welcome our guests. Thank you, the three of you, for sharing your Sunday evening, Easter Sunday evening with us as we take a look at, and I can't say other than violence. The only one else I'll put up there right there with it, that's as important to the Black community as voting, the right to vote, and what is going on, and voter suppression. That's just what it comes down to, voter suppression. And let me introduce our guests and wave your hands so everybody will know. Dr. Saidah Leatutufu Burch. Did I say that halfway right?
Yes, you did.
You said it all the way right.
I got it.
We practice, Saidah, okay?
All right. Someone I've actually known a long time. She won't tell you how long because we don't want to reveal things. Reverend Dr. Angela Brown. Hello, Angela.
I have no fear of telling how long it's been.
It's been a minute.
It's been a Tootsie Roll long time.
And someone I haven't met before, but glad you're on the program. I wonder for third things about you, Cheryl Thornton. Thank you, Cheryl. You can wave your hand too. Okay. And you can say hi. I'm going to say hi.
Cheryl, both Saidah and Angela speak very highly of you, so we're delighted to have you. And I'm going to say good evening to you, Saidah, Soror, and Soror Angela. I am delighted that you are here.
Thank you for inviting us.
So, Lady Cell brought this to me and said, we want to talk about something that's critical to what's going on in the country. And she actually said that your sorority, Delta Sigma Theta, had made this a national priority and you've made a local priority. So why don't you talk about, let's start right there. Start about, Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated's involvement with this, how you got involved personally, and let's lay out some of the issues and the three of you that are involved in what's going on with voting right now. And you can all speak at once. No, one at a time.
Or Brown, please. Okay. Okay. Well, the main issue right now is redistricting. And that's kind of the second step after a census is taken. A census is taken every 10 years to determine how many individuals are in the country. It doesn't say how many citizens, but how many individuals are in the country. And we know that the beginning of the census last year, the president at the time tried to make a big issue out of only counting citizens, which we believe caused some people not to be counted. So we believe that that's one of the reasons, main reasons for the undercount for this particular census. But the second step is redistricting to the census. Once we determine how many people are in the country, then we have to adjust our electoral districts. And we do that both on a federal, state, and local level. And on those levels, they determine how to do that. In some places, like California, you have a commission where you have people that have been selected from various parties, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, no party affiliation at all, to serve on the commission. California is one of the few states that has a commission that does the redistricting for the state electoral districts. Most states have the legislators do it. Now, that's got to be self-serving for the legislators to draw the lines. So that's where it gets really dicey. And that's when the public really needs to pay attention. Because of course, what they're doing is protecting their area, protecting their district for voting and for re-election. So California, I have to say, is ahead of most states in that way. And then you get to the local level, where in San Francisco, we also have what we call a redistricting task force. And that was made up of 9 members, 3 that came from the Board of Elections, 3 from the Board of Supervisors, and 3 from the mayor. And they are to draw the supervisorial lines, and they were required to turn their map over to the Board of Supervisors on the 14th of this month of April. Now, with these lines,
because we're going to get more into the San Francisco example specifically of redistricting after we take a look at the all the areas involved.
The global.
But I really want to find out specifically more about how Delta Sigma Theta got involved in this. Was this a national mandate that you look at voting? I want to hear about that, because I think that's important, very important to know that, our Greek organization in particular, DST, has taken this on as a project. So let's talk about, were you called to national headquarters and said, y'all got to do something about this? How did that happen?
Well, it was kind of a both and. It came from the top and it came from us. Seeing that we had a need for it, but we did make it a national priority for Deltas across the country to participate, however their city and state is organized, to get involved in redistricting. So it was a national mandate for us.
And if I could just chime in here with respect to voting, as an organization, when we think about voting, as citizens, and this is one of the issues with voting, is that it's limited to citizens. In many states, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated sees it as a fundamental right. It is our fundamental right as U.S. citizens to exercise our right to vote. Our ancestors have literally died, have been incarcerated to fight for our right to vote. And so when we exercise that right, we're saying that as a Black community, we matter. As communities of color, we matter. We want to contribute to this country, to this democracy. And one way to do that, as set by the democracy, is to vote. And to vote in every election. So we do have a charge from our National Social Action Commission to ensure that the public is educated on how to vote, on ways to vote, on when to vote, where to vote. All of those charges are important, not only in local elections, but also in state and federal elections as well. And that is our charge as an organization, to make sure that marginalized communities, specifically a primary focus on the Black community, knows how we can exercise our right, and that voting, in fact, is our right.
And given
then, if I could just add a point of clarification, the national, and we are San Francisco Alumnae Chapter, one of how many chapters we have across the nation. And so our chapter and these young women are the social action chairs for San Francisco Alumnae. So given that charge from national, and they have been very involved with this process, making sure our community knows and everybody else. So that's why we asked.
And I would hope everybody knows, but not everybody does. Not
everybody knows
that what's been happening in the last, specifically in the last, I would just say 2-3 years, but the voting rights bill has not been passed. Voting rights legislation was enacted, I believe, was it 1964 and 1965. I would say that the last election, there was a lot of organization by Black folks around voting, specifically to get that man out of office. I will just say that. I think everybody knows the name Stacey Abrams. Everybody knows Black Voters Matter. And I would say the current lack of passing of the bill and pushback to undo voting rights for Black folks was due to the fact that Black folks did vote in that last election.
Right.
And you know, we've been called, what have we been called? It's been called a rigged election. It's been called it's been called, they called all kind of names. And it's been called names specifically, as far as I'm concerned, because Black folks voted. And ever since, like, you know, Wisconsin came out and Pennsylvania came out and Atlanta came out and all those counties came out that were Black and swung the election, they have said, oh no, we can't let that happen again. So there has been a massive effort, not only not to pass the voting rights bill, but to undo. I mean, they're doing things like, they got states where they're doing things like, well, we know Black folks vote on Sunday after church, therefore, we're not going to let you vote on Sunday after church anymore. I mean, the machinations that they have come up with in this playbook are astounding, and redistricting and gerrymandering is the other word for it, is one of them. And so this film that we actually showed to our audience and to our young people who didn't know anything really about this stuff was very revealing about, you know, voter suppression, which, by the way, and this is how clever they are. Clever, and they is whoever you want to be, them. They call it voter integrity. And now they got to fix, what do they say? They're trying to fix something that wasn't broken. Dead people voted. No, dead people didn't vote. I mean, they come up with all kinds of stuff. So the voting is under, as far as I'm concerned, it's under attack like never before. I think they're trying to go to poll taxes. Okay, going back to poll taxes. So the fact that you know, are so vigilant, folks just don't understand. They will roll back everything, but everything in America, in this democracy, which they're also trying to overthrow, that's a whole nother deal, starts with the right to vote. So let's take a minute and look at this, the opening part of this video. We're going straight to it, Rig the Voter Suppression Playbook. It will list for, and I'm doing this for the larger audience because we know, right? But a lot of people don't. It will list all of the tactics in the voter suppression playbook. We'll look at that, and then we'll specifically look at redistricting and gerrymandering, learn the terminology. So I just wanted to have that set the background, and of course, this whole thing is about power. But I just wanted to hear the terms that you heard. You heard African Americans turned out in record numbers. Boom. You heard backlash. Boom. You heard the browning of America. Boom. And you heard multiracial world. Well, you know, all of that. And so people were worried that they might not be able to stay in power. So we got to do something about this record turnout and the browning and so on and so forth. So the playbook, and I like that playbook. Anybody who plays sports knows the playbook. And there are several strategies or tactics in this playbook. I'm going to read them all, and we're going to look specifically at one. Red mapping. And by the way, when we showed this to the kids, we went through every single one to let them show how this thing actually works. Voter registration ID laws, which is much in play now, you know. Gutting the Voting Rights Act. Voter fraud. The elections are fraudulent. No, they're not. But, you know, that's the thing. Voter purging voter rolls, voter intimidation, and change the courts, you know. And last but not least, gerrymandering, redistricting, better known as packing and cracking. And we'll talk more about this, but let's take a look at that strategy. And I tried to write that definition down, like it went too fast for me. But a tactic in the voter suppression playbook is gerrymandering or redistricting, where you either pack, or crack. And I was listening very well to both of them, but according to the filmmakers here, the object is to dilute the Black vote, make it as ineffective as possible. So either spread them out in a bunch of places where they don't they can't really impact something because the numbers are so small, or it looks like in certain states where they have enough numbers where they could make in, if you spread them out in different districts, you put them all in one so that they can only, so it's very, very, very diabolical. And I'll do one more. I heard you talk about in some states, you talk about commissions doing it and so on and so forth. This is happening everywhere. In Florida right now, the governor of Florida is doing that specifically. He is doing his own districting, and he has prepared his own map. And right now, if this map, by the way, they've handed this over to the governor. It's not the state commission. It's not even the Republican legislature. They turned it over. And this map that he has drawn, which he says is based on, I guess, census figures or whatever figures, would dismantle the North Florida seat now held by a black person, Republican Al Lawson, and create new districts across the entire region. The chair of the Florida Democratic Party says this proposed map is hell-bent on eliminating congressional seats where Florida's minority communities have had the ability to elect representatives of their choice. Let's see, it would also eliminate a seat held by Val Deming. So I think it's actually running for governor down there, right?
No, she's running for Senate against Rubio.
Yeah, and he's proposing also dismantling of two other seats now held by Black folks who happen to be Democratic. So it's a power thing. I think this is a great example in a particular, this is at the state level, gerrymandering of redistricting and how it's being used to dilute the Black vote. But it can happen anywhere. And apparently there are things going on right here under our own nose that many of us don't know about, that the three of you have been acutely involved in. And in a city that already has a small, shrinking, it was 14% when I got here to go to USF. Sometimes I just see me and me and me and me, and that's it walking around this city. They have now done redistricting in the city at the local level in San Francisco with dire consequences, which I think the three of you want to talk about for Black citizens here. And with that, it's yours. How did you get into this, and what the hell is going on that we want folks to know about? Because it's going to come to a city near you. All right, your turn. Go with it.
Yeah, so I'll just jump in here, Dr. Marshall. Thank you for all of the context on that with the video. Fascinating stuff. If there was ever a time where we've experienced packing and cracking, gerrymandering efforts to dilute the Black vote, is happening now in San Francisco. And so we've spent months, just to provide a little bit of background on the redistricting process. As Angela stated before, the 2020 census took place in San Francisco. So we essentially counted everyone here, discovered as of the 2020 census, about 5.6% of San Francisco identifies as Black. That's about 45,000 folks here, which is a slight decrease from the 2010 census. So once the census occurs and folks are counted, now it's time to redraw. The purpose of redistricting is to have an equal number of people, an equal number of individuals who are eligible to vote in every district. However, what we're going through now is because there are not many Black folks in San Francisco, a potential strategy, if you will be to maintain and hold our power. And what does that look like as an example? In the last few decades, San Francisco has elected about 40 or so Asian representatives. When it comes to Black folks, San Francisco has elected four Black people. In terms of supervisory seats, not at the executive level, mayoral seat, but district supervisors. And so a lot of the work that we've been doing as a chapter, as well as what Cheryl has been doing in community as an activist, is to educate folks on providing public comment, the redistricting process, and why it's so important that we don't experience cracking or gerrymandering, that we fight back. And so the action that we're in now is fighting back against an establishment, against the redistricting task force, which represents the establishment, in this case, to hear us, to respect our wishes to maintain our voting power, because our voting power is at risk. Right now, and Cheryl can go deeper into this, right now, the primary marginalized communities of color have experienced cracking in the map that is currently proposed. And so we're trying to return back to increase our voting power. But I'll pass it to Cheryl to talk a little bit about the messiness that this redistricting process has caused.
Yeah, and right, a lot of us, this has been going on. You know, we lead our lives, we got our mask on, we trying to stay alive, not all get COVID, worried about boosters. And apparently a commission has been put together to do this. And just give us some background. When did this commission start? I don't necessarily know who the names of the people on there, but their charge was to, I guess, do this redistricting, and folks don't like the results. This is what I'm hearing, particularly folks in the Black community. So Cheryl, I guess it's your turn.
Okay, well, thank you for having me on. And the first thing I want to say, it's not that we don't like the results. We're asking for a fair map. And so what has happened here is this time around, as Dr. Sai said, the Black population has shrunk. But within the Voting Rights Act of 1965, it says you can consider race when there's a community of interest. So the largest Black population in San Francisco currently resides in District 10.
Maybe, right.
And so our community of interest really are the Hope SF sites, which are in all the sub-districts of District 10. Potrero Hill, which has the annex in the terrace, Baby Hunters Point, they have Hunter's View, or I think that's what it's called, and then they have Sunnydale as well, the Hope SF site, and Alice Griffin. So those all connect the community, and in each one of those public housing sites, there's a significant Black vote. So in San Francisco, There's been a lot of development going on the eastern side of the city, which is the more Black, people of color side of the city. And so there's been growth in District 6, which there's like 30,000 people over. And in District 10, there's about, I think, 6,600, maybe 10%. So they, as you know, you said through the redistricting, they had to, cut the population in each district. So last Saturday, what they had proposed, the task force had proposed, was to cut Potrero Hill, and remove Potrero Hill, which had a significant Black vote, and move them to District 9. And in the meantime, bring Portola into our district, which only part of Portola had been in the district previously. But the numbers in the Portola look much different, and they would increase the Asian vote to over 50%. It would become maybe like 55%. So they would be the majority minority. And in that case, and we would be less, it would be difficult for us to elect someone that looks like us to represent us in City Hall. So with that map that they created, there's 11 districts. And in those 11 districts on that map, 7 of them were majority white European descent. They were the majority voting bloc. And then in the other 4 that they were proposing, they would be majority minority Asian, which would leave Hispanic people, Latino people, or Black people, or transgender, or all different people, Filipino people, without having an opportunity to have a seat at the table, meaning City Hall.
So we would have been cracked.
Yes, so that's what they're doing, spreading us over so many districts that our voice is not heard anymore.
The commission made this decision. Again, I'm not going into who's on it and so on and so forth, but this was a decision made by the 10-member, 12-member commission after listening to the public, just tell me how that decision was made to do it like that. Was it done by?
Yeah, so there are 9 members on the commission. 3 members are appointed by the Board of Supervisors. 3 are appointed by the mayor's office, and then 3 are appointed by the Department of Elections. And their work started in September after census data was released. And per the city charter, they are charged with, this is a nonpartisan body, but as a part of the charter, they are charged with receiving public feedback and input. Taking public feedback where we were allowed as citizens of San Francisco to draw our own maps, to make proposals on different district lines. And they're supposed to take all of that feedback into consideration when they as a commission, as a task force, decide to draw those lines. So even though their work started in September, they did not actually start drawing maps until March. The deadline to submit the final map for redistricting was Friday, April 15th, technically April 14th, 11:59 p.m. However, because they did not take into consideration public comment, at least representative and equitable public comment, and the amount of feedback they got on how anti-Black and how racist the original proposed map was, they decided to go beyond the deadline to do it right. And so I think it's important to note that they've had months to receive feedback, but waited until literally the 11th hour to start putting a map together and to propose a map that did not have an opportunity to receive the level of feedback necessary for public to feel represented and for us to feel like we were equitably heard.
So we all live in San Francisco. I certainly, my whole middle school career was on Potrero Hill. I'm actually in D10. My office is in District 10. And when I heard you say, move Portola out, move Portola in, and move Potrero Hill out, that definitely changes the total composition of District 10. And effectively, it takes Black folks out of the picture. I mean, yeah, it's that simple. I heard a couple of dates. I heard April 14th midnight or 11:59 p.m. Is the map that they put out final, or are they like saying, well, maybe we should have listened? And I guess you're going to talk about that. Where is that decision right now, or is it done and you got to go back? And so I don't want to jump ahead. You guys tell me.
So
maybe you're sounding the alarm tonight.
So currently, after that Saturday night decision and 4 of the task force members walked out, there was a lot of commotion. What actually happened is
really?
Yeah, because people were saying that, for instance, in District 10, we did a lot of community engagement out here in the community. So there was a lot of community of interest, forms submitted, information given, public testimony, but they didn't hear us. So the map, there's 2 maps right now. The map from April 10th, which is the map that basically polarizes and does not give most people of color in the city a voice at the table.
And was decided on at 2 a.m. in the morning.
Right. And
when
so
everybody is asleep.
So after that, right, after we protested and protested and protested about that map, and after some correspondence came to the light, the map was pulled back and they reviewed it, even though it was after the deadline, because the city attorney would not let them alter the map that was supposed to be on time from the April 10th deadline. They would not let them make any major changes because we had made a claim that by doing what they were doing in this map, they were actually potentially violating the 1965 Voting Rights Act by cracking the Black vote.
Right. Can I say this?
Do you want to take it? Sorry.
No, I was going to say before we go on to, good you were on the case. Well, the rest of us were like doing our thing. Good you were on the case to raise objections to what you could plainly see was like, oh, ain't gonna be no more D10 as we have known it in the past. And, I happen to know the past supervisors, at least the supervisor seats in D10. I know who they are. I know what they look like, and they probably wouldn't happen again under the new map. Ann, you wanted to say something? Yeah.
I think I found it. I'm not sure if we wanted to take a quick peek at it just to give a visual. Yeah. Okay, just let me know if this is the right one, but this looks like it came from April 13th, just to give an idea. And then this button was showing me these new lines from what's current and how things might change. So this is maybe what it would be.
So this is the map we actually want, what they call the blow up map or the healing map. And if you hover like over Bayview in District 10, it will give you like, click there. It should give you, see, the percentage.
Wow.
So it will tell you right there that there would be 83,000 people. The Asian vote would be 42.17. The Black vote would be 19.36. It goes through this. Now, what this tells you, they're not the So what has happened previously when we were voting, that the white residents and the Black residents tended to vote more on the same way. And so we were able to elect a Black person to go to D10. But the thinking is that once you create a majority minority district, because if you bring Portola in, it will significantly change the numbers and taking Patrol Hill out. It will significantly weaken the Black vote. It will strengthen the Asian vote, but it will also weaken the Black vote, which is a potential violation of the Voting Rights Act.
And on that same link, you would see the option that says draft final map April. That is the one that that was protested, but they still have a record of it. But that is the one where a clear disparity existed in terms of voting power, diluting voting power specifically for Black and Indigenous populations in District 10. as well as District 6.
And it actually did it in District 9 as well. It diluted the Latino voice.
So is it possible to see that new, and is it there? I don't, it might not be, we might not be. Because seeing that first one was great. I mean, you saw the numbers, you saw the
so you'll want to click on, check that box that says draft final map April 10th.
Right.
Click a couple of boxes down, one more up. There we go. Yeah, there.
Right, now, you see how much they cut 10, and look at the numbers, the difference in the numbers. Hover
Can you
over
put
the
numbers up?
Uncheck the first box, the April 13th.
Well, that's okay. The numbers were there.
Wow, look at that. It does look different. Woo! Look at this number, brought it down. Whoops. This is amazing. Thank you.
So this is the map that was decided on at about 2 a.m. on that Sunday morning, in the one that was protested.
5%, Lord.
This removes the 2 hospitals that were in District 10. It removes Whole Foods grocery store. It removes it removes Daniel Webster and Star King, one of the better elementary schools in this district. So, I mean, it has significant impact, adverse impact.
And those are the type of things that you can consider in a neighborhood when they talk about community of interest, those type of things, hospitals, stores, religious alignment, those type of factors can be taken into consideration, and you can tell that they were not, obviously.
No.
And we're all residents, and those who have lived here, I mean, I'm just thinking of everything. I mean, like I said, I remember when I got here with 15%, and I've just seen it shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink. You seen the Fillmore disappear. I mean, you've seen it disappear from the Western Addition pretty much. The last cultural enclave that we had was the Bayview. We've seen gentrification change that, and now the redistricting. Wow, that's yeah. And then the fact that factors that should be, you're saying should be considered according to the Voting Rights Act aren't being considered.
And since we're talking about terms, I just want to say that sometimes instead of cracking, you will hear fracturing. So it's the same concept, but just different terms.
Yes, I like that, fracture.
Because that's what it does.
I gotta ask Cheryl, how did you, I know how they got a charge to do it, and they would have done it anyway, but how did you get involved in this whole?
I saw it. I work for the health department, the San Francisco Health Department, and one day it just popped on my computer. And normally I would have been on the bargaining team for SEIU 10-1, but that didn't happen. And so I started watching it back last September online, and I got interested in it because I'm involved in at work just around equity and inclusion at work, and we have a big problem with that. And so when I got into the redistricting, I saw that right away. Immediately I said, oh, there's the people that are showing up here are not from District 10. They may not have a voice, and this is the one. So I just thought it was my call. It was like my call to action this one time. Because I didn't want to hear, so many times I hear that we didn't know, and it's true, we didn't know. So I just said, maybe I could sound the bell, and so ring the bell. And so I just started having mapping sessions, trying to educate the community here in District 10 at the library, just holding them on the weekends, just wanting to do civic engagement. Probably what motivated me, my son, who has met you, Dr. Marshall, Kaneem Thornton, he's in law school, and I wanted him as a young person to return back to San Francisco, because too many of our young people are becoming, they acquire the skills, but they don't return. It's like a drain of our youth. And so how we're going to rebuild here? So I wanted him to come back, and I want him to have something to come back to, a community. I want these young people, because I'm involved with youth. I want the youth to have a community. And so that's why it was my call to action.
Wow. There's a lot of stories here. And one is just being involved civically and stepping in and you know, making a difference. That's huge. So thank you for putting your eyes on this, because I didn't know about it. I really didn't. I did not know.
They don't want us to know about it, because the first process was redevelopment, and the last process is redistricting, diluting your voice so you're invisible, until they pretty much through the redlining and through the all the economic policies that are so harsh towards Black African American people in the city is what's pushing us out. Then we won't be here anymore. We'll be invisible like the Alumnae people.
Right. And my two doctors here. What did your involvement? I know you had it from the national side, but when you sat down and you know, as a local, as San Francisco Alumnae chapter, and is this something that you focused and honed in as something that the Social Action Committee wanted to be involved in?
Yes, we made sure that somebody at first they were having just remote meetings on Zoom because of the pandemic had kicked up. But we made sure that we had a member on the call at all the meetings, because just to listen to what the community wanted. Right. And we were very aware of how the community wanted the lines drawn. Community members were submitting their own maps, and you could submit a map just with a narrative. You didn't have to necessarily do it on the computer, but you could, you know, just write out, you know, who your community of interest, why you felt that you needed the map configured in a certain way. So we made sure that we were just watching how this was progressing, and it just definitely that Saturday morning, and I want to say morning because people keep saying Saturday night, but that was like 2 a.m, where it definitely took a turn that you know, some people did not expect at all.
So can I interject here and just say one thing? Some people did expect it, because right before the vote, the room filled with developers and realtors. And they were in there celebrating that they had gotten this map through, because it is our belief. We have no factual evidence of this yet. It's our belief they want to sell Bayview Hill and redevelop it and tear it down. And that's what we believe, because they came into the, like I said, into the room that night, right before the vote, expecting the vote. And and just to clarify a point, I was told the day before the map even came up, before anybody saw that map removing Patrol Hill, I was told the day before by one of the task members that this was going to come up and that they were going to vote. And, you know, I was asking why, because it didn't make sense that this was happening, because it hadn't been talked about. And so I just needed, I was in a state of shock that somebody that possibly looked like me was telling me this information.
When I say people didn't expect it, I mean the people didn't expect it.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Well, what do they say?
The people were hoping, believing, expecting, wanting, thinking that this commission, this task force would hear what they were saying. I mean, that there was more involved than what's in it for me, which is why it was wonderful that 4 of them got up and walked away. You know, but the idea that there are developers celebrating, and then looking at the impact of that. Because if they wipe that out, there are people, this is where people live, their homes, where are they gonna go? We already have the situation that is horrific in this city, the homelessness, and now we've got, housing, rent, the impact of this is, for me, it's just unconscionable.
Well, I just want to add that 50% of the people that are homeless in San Francisco, the statistics show they came from public housing. So they are just, the developers are here. And if we don't fight to protect our communities, our vulnerable communities, they will be gone.
And more created as a result of it. At least that's
Dr. Burch, I want to give you a chance to jump in. You want to say anything about?
Absolutely. I would say this is what's shaped or what's taken shape over the last week or so is the power of organizing. And when I think about the Black Greek community and even the organization Delta Sigma Theta, the work that they did, the civic engagement work that the founders did as 16, 17-year-olds was incredible and led for moments such as this. So I've only experienced 3 redistricting times in my life because I'm 33. And 10 years ago, fresh out of college, I had no idea. It was not involved because that wasn't my focus at the time. And here we are 10 years later, where I'm in a position to understand the implications of redistricting and to make sure that my family that still lives here in San Francisco, who are Black and Samoan, and have an equal chance, have an equitable chance at having their voices heard, at being represented, and at having our elected leaders advocate for and fight for the resources that we desperately need in these communities, especially in a community like District 10, where we cannot risk losing our assets such as our schools, our grocery stores, our hospital, things that create economic engines, that create jobs, that create the possibility to thrive. And so I know, aside from the participation in the sorority and it being our national charge, I think independently as a San Franciscan, a 3rd generation San Franciscan, and somebody who still lives here, it's my obligation to make sure that community is aware and involved in this process. Like there's no other choice, because once these lines are drawn, that dictates who we're able to elect as our represented leaders, which again comes full circle and ties back to voting, and our voting power and how we're able to exercise that power. And so I'm very fortunate to be in tune and up on these late night calls, making public comment, which is a call to action to our listeners, that there's still an opportunity to get involved. The next meeting is April 21st. I don't want to speed to the end, but I just wanted to make sure that I said that out loud, that our advocacy and our organizing extended this process, and I believe it did so for the better.
Mm-hmm. And this is so important to highlight, and we're highlighting the city of San Francisco, but this is going on all over the country. This is going on, I started with Florida and the state, and it's happening to cities. It's a local thing, it's a state thing, it's a national thing. All of these things are going on everywhere. And a lot of times people, you remember when COVID started, and there were communities that said, well, it ain't gonna happen here. Yeah, well, the disease was like, yeah, I'm waiting, I'm looking for you, right? I'm looking for you because you're not paying attention. And all these voting rights issues and all these tactics in the playbook, they're real and they're happening. And you got to know it's going to happen in your locale. And we're giving you a very concrete example of a place we happen to know very, very well, where to show you how it can play out if you are if you are asleep at the wheel or asleep at the watch. You shouldn't be asleep at the wheel at all, if you're sleeping, because this stuff does, it gets posted somewhere, and then, you got your daily lives going on, and, and boom, there's something that's passed. So Thank you for being vigilant. Thank you for, just letting us focus on it and show the processes, how it can happen. What can be done now? Because I think at this point, we're talking about, is it too late? You've already put the stop sign up and said, hold the presses. What's next? What can be done to maybe?
And now what do we do? Now what do we do?
Yeah.
So there's going to be 2 more meetings. We need to continue to give public input about our community of interest. And you don't have to live here. You can work here. You can have family here, and that you could shop here. It's your community of interest. So we need to continue just to advocate for a fair map. We are, our grassroots effort, we're going to be holding a rally this Wednesday, 4/20, and down in Visitation Valley in solidarity with our Asian sisters and brothers, because there are some people who are trying to racialize this for us advocating for our voice. They're trying to use the race card of Asian hate, but it's not Asian hate, it's us, it's Black people advocating and others so that we can have a voice. Mm-hmm. So we are having a rally in solidarity.
Is this the flyer right here?
Yes.
Okay.
And we would like as many people, I know it's in the middle of the day, if you can share it in your networks, please share it, because we would like to stay together.
Yeah. Whew. Got a civic
lesson. The other thing is civic engagement in our community. I just want to add one more thing, that I am going to continue to hold sessions at the library, even once redistricting is done, around voter registration, voter education, around who, when there's elections coming up, when people want more information, understanding initiatives. We need to do a lot more engagement in our community, knock on doors and things of that nature.
Yes, and I would like us to be aware of elections that are coming up, because we have quite a few elections coming up that are kind of off the cycle of what people expect. And we need to make our people aware. In fact, there is an election April 19th. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that is a state assembly seat, District 17, that was vacated when David Chu was appointed city attorney. So that's coming up. Also, June 7th is the statewide primary election. So we want people aware of that, June 7th. And that's just about all of the state offices and state assembly districts 17 and 19. And also nonpartisan offices, which is the superintendent of public education, and also the city attorney will have to run now for that office, although he has been appointed in it. And then the last election for the year will be November 8th. But also on June 7th, which is something that's important, is the recall of election for the district attorney, Chesa Bodine. And that's on the ballot for June 7th. Again, something that could slip through the cracks if we're not really keeping up on what is being voted on each of these elections, because they're out of sequence, and people are not sure, what offices are up, what districts are up for election, but just keeping people aware that April 19th, June 7th, and June 8th are coming up this year.
Can you say something about the misnomer that the most important time to vote is the November elections?
I mean, that's what they want you to think. That's where they, we usually vote, they say from the top of the ticket, and that's usually about it. But all elections, every election is important, every election. So it's not just the presidential election, every election is important. And usually the ones that are off the presidential election cycle is more important because they're usually local, and that's going to affect you more.
And they are the ones that end up making these laws, making the decisions,
exactly,
and changing things. We look up and right now, if things are the way we want it, and the next thing we know, the one that you voted for, you didn't vote for, because you didn't vote, you end up with something that you don't necessarily want. But had you voted in June, then you would have that person that's going to make sure you get what you want come November. So it's important.
Yes.
Every
election.
This is essentially a civics lesson. But it's a civic lesson with real-time data, real-time information. It's not the civics lesson in the classroom, in the 12th grade that you got to pass your class, to graduate. This is a civic lesson citing what's exactly going on and showing how it can affect you right away, and how it affects, in this case, communities of color, and in particular the Black community. So, this is a cautionary tale for all of us. This is the way I'm looking at it, and that you can make a difference. You can make a difference. Number one, your vote makes a difference. Number two, you're being involved at the grassroots level, makes a huge difference, as we see right now. You're serving on commissions and boards makes a big difference. I know from serving on the police commission. I know there are times if I hadn't been on there, believe me, let me just say that some folks would still have their jobs as officers had I not been on there.
Yes,
sir. So and these aren't necessarily, these are not paid gigs, right? These ain't something you get money for. So also this is true. It's almost like serving on a jury. You do this because it's your civic duty, and you want somebody to have a fair trial, and you want to have a voice in there, and you want a fair and unbiased jury, that kind of thing. So this is a real civics lesson. So I gotta thank all of you for bringing this to our attention. Certainly thank the women of Delta Sigma Theta for taking this on both nationally and locally. Thank the activists. I love activists. I just do. I just think like activists, Cheryl, Thornton. I mean, I love it. When you get to, by the way, you get to be an activist, you be activist forever. That's just in your blood. I know it's been in mine since college. Angela knows. And Lady Self, thank you for, saying, look, let's put this on and let everybody hear this particular case of about this particular subject, redistricting, this particular city, and your city's next. So learn from ours. Anything else you want to add? Because I think you wrapped it up very, very well. I love the fact that, put that flyer one more time, Ann, so folks who are interested will know once again what they can do, where they can show up. That looks like it's Wednesday, April 20th, 12 noon at Biz Valley Greenway. And for this particular rally for a fair healing map in the SF redistricting process, it is not too late. So that's immediate. Okay,
I'd like to ask if it is okay if Dr. Saidah would say again, if she would end it the way she started, with the fundamental right to use our voice and to vote. And sometimes that thing that is the easiest thing to do, fill out that voter registration card. If you get your thing in the mail fill it out, send it in. If you could end the way you begin, reminding every listener, because we have listeners that are not just in the Bay Area. We have a right to use our voice, and we shouldn't allow anybody to take away the rights that we have, that we should have. And we work, people have lived and died.
That's right.
To be able to check that box and use our voice. And then you have it and you don't use it. Right. And then you end up with that thing you do not want. And it is so important that we pay attention to what we want and then use everything we've got to make sure that happens. So, Dr. Saidah, if you end it the way you started, I would appreciate everybody hearing that again.
Yeah, and Soros, Estelle, you said it perfectly. As U.S. citizens, it is our fundamental right to contribute to America's democracy through voting. It is our right to be here in this country. It is our right to equal and equitable representation. And if it didn't matter at any time, it matters now. We are here to tell you your vote matters, especially at the local level. Voting access is important. Voting, exercising your right to vote is essential. And we urge you all to get out your right to vote, to exercise your right to vote, because as was mentioned earlier, our ancestors died for it. And so we support you. If you need information on how to vote, do reach out to us on where to vote, in ways to vote. There are multiple ways to vote, so don't let that limit you in terms of exercising your right. Thank you.
Well said. Okay. All right.
I want to thank you again.
Thank you.
All three of you. I don't see Cheryl. Thank you so much for spending this time. Not just tonight, because I know you were up, you said 2 o'clock. No. You all were up till 4 o'clock in the morning. All night long, using your voices. And you know what? There's so many things that are always trying to be taken away from people who look like me. I'm about sick of it. But if we don't stand up and say, not today, you're going to hear from me and me and me and me. So I thank you for this time. Dr. Marshall, thank you for your willingness to allow this to happen. Thank you.
We sounded the alarm. Sounded the alarm. Thank you. Good night. Good luck. Keep us posted.
Okay. Good night.
All right. Bye-bye.